Hi guys, Elle here. Today we're going to review the Hermetic Tarot. Okay, the Hermetic Tarot by Godfrey Dowson was created back in the late 70s, and it was released through US Games back in 1990 and then again in 2006, and that is what the version I have here is. It's the 2006 edition. Now this is it's such a friggin' amazing deck for so many reasons. I'll try to get to all of them. But one of the things that that I've heard said about this deck, and I totally agree with, is that it's like a black magic wizard deck kind of thing. And it totally has that look and that feel to it, like it's this old, esoteric, magic-y, dark deck. And it's definitely cool for that reason. But it is also a fantastic Golden Dawn deck. Now, he's pulled from, you know, lots and lots of different sources, and it's sort of its own thing, but it's definitely really heavily Golden Dawn based. You can see, especially in like the court cards, like I think that's really where this deck shines the most too, is in the court cards. It's like exactly what you read in Book T. It's like exactly what Mathers describes the court cards to be. But he also draws pretty heavily from like the Thoth deck from Crowley's work. You can see that in a lot of the pips. You can see that in like the Sun card and stuff. He clearly also draws from people like Levy and Paul Foster Case. There's a lot of, you know, obviously Kabbalah and Hermeticism and interesting mythological references. You have all your Golden Dawn astrological correspondences, your angelic correspondences. Yeah, it's a really cool deck. Also, this is kind of the first time that I think I'm ever really talking about Golden Dawn stuff on this channel. I'm gonna try and keep things to a minimum, so this does not become like a 3-hour intro to Golden Dawn tarot ideas. I think the only time I've ever sort of talked about Golden Dawn stuff is when I'm like, I hate their correspondences. And I do, but you know, I love, you know, how they come at the tarot, and there's a lot of things I really do appreciate about Golden Dawn correspondences and Golden Dawn ideas and all that. So we can do another video at another time, you know, going deeper into all the associations and all the correspondences, and I'm gonna try not to go off on too many tangents during this video. So I really want to get to the good stuff, so let me show you guys the kind of boring, I guess, stuff first. I'm gonna show you the box that it comes in. It is kind of your standard tuck box, US Games. That is the Emperor card on the back there. It's a standard 78 card deck, but it does come with 2 extra kind of title cards. That is one of them there. And there's the other one. And this is the little white book that comes with. It's actually a fantastic book. There is no like book to go along with this deck, but there is lots and lots of wonderful information in here. Actually, there was something I want to read you guys real quick. I love the way this is written. Here it just talks about like what the tarot is in general. It's real quick. You guys, you gotta hear this. It's beautiful. The tarot is a perfect symbolic picture of the cosmos as seen through the eyes of man. Tarot also reflects the many facets of man in his environment. Let me jump ahead here. The tarot is a mirror of reality. Its construction, based on the 4 elements, the celestial phenomena, the holy Kabbalah, and a very evolved psychology, can lead its devotees to the inner recesses of psychic and intuitive awareness. The tarot itself can be used as the basis of occult study, as it may be said to possess all aspects of the inner wisdom tradition. Hell yeah, it does. Love that. So yeah, there is basically at the beginning here, he goes over some history of the Golden Dawn, history of where he kind of gets a lot of his inspiration from. A lot of talk about Mathers and Book T and Golden Dawn history. And then he starts getting into astrological and elemental correspondences. There's something sort of interesting that he does here. He talks about the fact that, you know, all the planets were known back when these correspondences were created. I'm talking about the zodiacal and planetary correspondences for the major arcana. So what he did here, which, you know, you can agree with or not agree with, it is totally up to you, is for the elemental cards, he has assigned a planetary correspondence. So for the Fool, you get Pluto, the Hanged Man, Neptune, and Judgment is Uranus. But he does list all the rest of the correspondences here. And he gives you their elemental correspondences also, which is also on the card. Like every single Golden Dawn correspondency is on these cards. All the decans, all the angels. By the way, I'm really happy that you guys asked to see a review of this deck. It's really cool. I probably would not have gotten to this deck for a little while because there is a lot of information on this deck out there. There's lots of videos, there's lots of like blog reviews and all that kind of stuff online. But it really sort of grinds my gears, I guess you could say, because they don't go into detail. Like, they don't explain what's actually on some of these cards. I'll show you in a second. Like I said, all the angelic correspondences are on these cards in this deck. It's wonderful. And usually what I see people talking about is how, when you get to the minor arcana back here, he lists the Shem Hameferesh associations, the angelic correspondences for all the minor arcana. That was the majors, but they're in here somewhere. There they are. But also what is on these cards is like archangel correspondences on the major arcana that are associated via the Golden Dawn through the astrological, the zodiac, the planetary correspondences with an archangel. And all that stuff is actually written on Hebrew on these cards. But he doesn't talk about the archangels in the little white book. So if you had no idea what all this writing was, especially since it's in Hebrew on your cards, that would drive me fucking crazy. I actually had to figure it out for my friggin' self. I sat there sounding them out until I figured out what the correspondences were. But hopefully that I can go over some of that stuff for you guys. It'll make things a little bit easier. Anyway, that's basically this deck. It has wonderful descriptions of every single card. It has reversed meanings. Yeah, there's very detailed information on all the cards about what he chose to put on the cards, and all the associations are for the most part listed here, and divinatory meanings, upright and reversed, and just a few pages in the back here on how to read, and then there is a Celtic cross. And even a little picture. Oh my god, I actually really, really love this. I wrote this in my journals. This little tidbit here, it reads, persons reading the cards should bear in mind that the various meanings presented in this booklet are suggestive. During a reading, the diviner of the cards should freely permit his own conscious and subconscious thought processes to assign expanded meanings to each card in a manner which feels most comfortable and responsive. Absolutely love that little disclaimer is in there, because it's so true. You know, you have your meanings, and then when you're reading, not that you throw them out the window or anything, but, you know, if you want to read the cards, you have to do that. Love that. Okay, so I'm going to pull out my deck, and then I'll just do a little size comparison to a Rider-Waite-Smith. This is how I keep my deck, by the way. I have a little, hexagram Seal of Solomon on there. And there are our beautiful cards, and they are, exactly the same? I think they're pretty much exactly the same as your Rider-Waite-Smith. Yep, as your standard tarot card size. They are totally standard. Beautiful. And this is what the backs look like. They're not completely reversible, but then again, it's one of those things, it doesn't jump out at you. I know I say that every time and I get it back, that doesn't jump out at you when it's reversed, but I enjoy that. What's on the back here is lots of these beautiful, like, first of all, you have hexagrams everywhere, but it's also this, you know, that Golden Dawn rose, or the, is there an actual name for it, like a Kabbalah rose, or the Hermetic rose, something like that. It does have 12 petals here, 7 petals here, 3 petals here, and then on that one there's 5 on the inside. But you know, it fits the entire Hebrew alphabet. You have your 12 simples, your 7 doubles, and your 3 mother letters. The back of the cards doesn't have any Hebrew on it, but that's what that rose is there. Now, obviously, this deck is also all in black and white. You know what else, though? I know I said it's kind of like a dark wizard's deck, and it does have that look to it. And it is serious. It's a serious deck, but there's definitely this sort of undertone that runs through of I want to call it cuteness. Maybe kind of a little bit of silliness. There's something really, really cute about it. Like, I love the devil card. There's like these little devilish figures, and they have this sort of funny glint in their eyes. It's really entertaining. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, so here you have the Fool. And what else do you have on these cards? Lots and lots of stuff. First of all, there's tons of symbols, and and things are taken right from, like, the description in Golden Dawn books, like Book T, and what's that one? Soror QL, whatever her name is, where she talks about the major arcana, and it definitely it comes from all there. All the titles are your classic Golden Dawn titles. All your Hebrew letter associations right here are that. You have air. He's associated this with Pluto also. He does number the Fool 0, and then down here, these are on the bottom of, like, I think every single card pretty much. They're not keywords necessarily. They are like the alternate title for the card in the Golden Dawn system, and this one reads the Spirit of Ether. See what I mean, dude? They're beautiful. This Fool has a wolf because that is how it's you know, how it's described in Golden Dawn stuff. There's even a little alligator down there in the water. Can you see that? And he's got his bag over there. I'm gonna try not to point out, like, every freaking thing on these cards, because you could just go on forever. He does a really good job, and if you're already familiar with Golden Dawn, this will feel very, very familiar, and very close to your hearts. But if you're not, like I said, he really does go into good detail in the little white book. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put a link down below to some, like, basic Golden Dawn stuff, like Book T and maybe a couple other ones like that. So you guys can check it out if you've never read them. They're easy reads. They're not hard to read at all. It's basically like reading the description of a tarot deck. You know, it's like reading a little white book. Am I gonna get crucified for saying that? Is that insulting to Book T? Sorry. Let me zoom in a little bit on this guy. You have the Magus of Power is its title, and then you actually have, this isn't just air here. You have all the alchemical symbols for the elements, and all the tarot symbols for the elements down here, your sword, your cup, etc. Look at that dark black magic wizard. Isn't he cool? And he's got a 6-pointed star, a hexagram at the end of his wand. It's like he's manifesting Mercury, and Mercury is the astrological attribute association for this card. Also, here is what I mentioned earlier when I was like, what the fuck is written on these cards? This is, what is this one? Raphael for the Magician. They're just your classic Golden Dawn associations. I think Rigardi and Dion Fortune and all of them. This is their associations because of the Mercury Raphael. Maybe I'll list them all below so you guys can have them, because it doesn't say it, unless I'm being silly, it doesn't say it anywhere in the little white book. I remember when I first got this deck, I'm like, I do not want things written on my cards that I have no fucking idea what they are. I actually sat there. Hang on, I'm going to skip to the Empress for a second. This was the first one I happened to try to sound out, you know, and I just wrote the letters below it. And I came up with, at the time, it was like Lana, and I'm like, oh shit, no, obviously, you know, they're read in the opposite direction, so I'm like, anal? Like, why the fuck is anal written on my Empress card? It's cracking up. I'm like, are these all like weird sexual references all over my major arcana? Anyway, it didn't take me long, don't worry, to realize that the archangel associated with Venus is Anael, if I'm pronouncing that right, but it certainly isn't anal. Fucking love it. Alright, back to the High Priestess for a second. Focus, camera. There is our beautiful High Priestess. So really the only like big kind of golden dawn thing missing from this deck is color. And I've heard lots of people say that like they want to color this deck, and I think that'd be an interesting undertaking. I love it just as it is. I'm probably not going to color these cards, but you can use all your Golden Dawn color associations if that is your thing, and color in these cards probably in a really interesting way. Priestess of the Silver Star. I gotta say, I friggin' love, what's the High Priestess? The moon is associated with Gabriel. Gabriel. That's what's written up there. Oh, by the way, I'm jumping around, sorry folks. The Fool. Basically all the cards that have like a mother, I almost said a mother rune, no runes, a mother letter on it, Aleph, Mem, and Shin, which in Golden Dawn is what the Fool, the Hanged Man, and Judgment. So those three cards are not associated in this deck anyway with like an archangel. You won't see any of the Hebrew writing on those three cards. I don't know why he chose not to put them on there. It does end up doubling things. Like then, where'd it go? Like the Magician and the Fool both end up being Raphael. So I don't know, but he didn't put them on there. Priestess. All right, back to the Empress. She's got her 12 stars up here. All her Venus associations. I love that she's got the eagle down here. She looks more like a phoenix here. And there's your Emperor, Son of the Morning. That's the Golden Dawn title. I love the bees here. It's sort of like an alchemical ram. He talks about that, I remember. All the Aries associations. Beautiful. But I really do. I love the names of the Golden Dawn is given to these cards. I think they're so beautiful. Magus of the eternal gods. They're very fitting. They're really neat. Yeah, I'm not going to go into all the symbolism here. He does a really good job, like I said, of explaining it in the little white book, and you can always have all your Golden Dawn references for this. Some of these, what's this one? This is like Perseus and Andromeda. They have really strong mythological references and stuff. He references Sagittarius and Gemini, and all your attributes are here. If you're looking for a good Golden Dawn study deck, like that's kind of why I got this deck. And I had some major revelations when working with this deck, when I was studying this deck. Daughter of the Flaming Sword. And I'll get to that. Actually, it was in the core cards. It had to do with how I used to associate basically like Thoth or Golden Dawn court cards back to Marseille and or Rider-Waite-Smith court cards. It's kind of an argument as old as time, I feel like. I guess as old as the Golden Dawn, anyway. About what is your knight and what is your king, and elementally what do these things correspond to. I'll probably have to make a whole nother video kind of talking about that, which could be really interesting. That Justice card, beautiful. You got your Libra. You got a Rosy Cross. You got an Ankh. You got fucking everything. And even though, you know, I don't get down with a lot of how the Golden Dawn goes about associating a lot of things, a little bit more with Pappas and in most cases and all that, but I can still work with this deck. It's a very readable deck. This is a levy thing right here, the whole Temperance card. Look at that. This is like fire and water combined here in Temperance. Oh, I love that card. What was I saying? Oh, reading with this deck. Yeah, I came across a lot of people sort of saying that it's not good for practical readings, and it's much better suited to magical workings or study or meditation. But when it comes down to it, guys, it's just all about how you like to read the tarot. You cannot say that. I think that's not a good thing to say. I can read with this deck for what the fuck ever. And I think people can read a Thoth deck for any sort of a mundane practical reading too. If that's not your thing, and this doesn't look like something you can get down with and read in that way, then maybe that's just why you get it as a study deck, if you want to learn from it or meditate with it or use it for magic. It's such a personal thing. It's your beautiful star card, the daughter of the firmament. Like, you just have to say it all fancy. It sounds so cool. And your moon card, ruler of flux and reflux. Pisces. And here's the sun card. I think this is such a beautiful card. Let me zoom on this one too. Lord of the fire of the world. And it's Michael, by the way. Archangel Michael with the sun. Beautiful. Here's Judgment. Like I said, this is another one that does not have, because of its association with Shin, does not have an archangel associated with it, so there's no Hebrew writing on this major arcana card. Isn't that beautiful? You will literally, if you have this deck or you get this deck, just sit here staring at it, and every time you whip it out, probably for like the first several months, you will be finding new symbols and researching and making connections. I love decks like this. The great one of the night of time, the universe. All right, so that brings us to our minor arcana. Okay, so all the aces actually have a bit of Hebrew writing. I'm not sure if he goes over that in Little White Book. Basically, this just says Keter. And this is the Lord of the root of the power of fire. The aces are beautiful. Ace of Wands. Here is your Two of Wands. So yeah, like I said, I feel like in the pips, in the excuse me, especially in like the 2 through the 10s, you definitely see some you see, like, I feel like it's like half Book T description, half Thoth, Crowley influence, you know. So here on the cards too, you have all of your decan associations. You've associated the Golden Dawn associates the 2 through the 10s, each card to 10 degrees of the zodiac. So here you have Aries ruled by the Sun in Aries, and that's all clearly depicted just in symbol. It's not written anywhere, but you do get the 2 symbols on each card. So whenever you have your planetary and your zodiac sign, you know it's that planet in that sign. It doesn't say the degrees. What is this? 3 of Wands, 10 to 20 degrees, I believe. Aries, Sun in Aries. That's that. So then the angels that I was talking about, they're written down here. These are the angels of the Shem angels, as I call them, or the angels of the Shem Hemepharesh. Let me do this while I speak, so we don't be here all day. 4 of Wands. It's sort of an interesting thing. I don't understand really why the Shem Hemepharesh, I'm just going to call them Shem angels, guys, because I know I'm sure I'm not saying that very accurately, isn't really, I don't know why it's not talked about by tarot people very much. It's a really, really fascinating subject. It's definitely where sort of Attila arrived at a lot of his meanings for the minor arcana. You know what? There's a great article by Christine Payne-Towler about the tarot and the Shem angels. I will put a link to that guy down below. And I agree with her way of sort of associating the Shem angels with the cards. The Golden Dawn does something kind of strange, in my opinion, where they sort of start their the Shem angels in general are associated with the decans of the the zodiac. I feel like I can't find the right words right now, because the Golden Dawn sort of starts their year out in Leo, they have some wonky, excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult people, in my opinion, wonky correspondences for the angels to the minor arcana. I don't agree with them. Pappas does it a little bit differently, and I think correctly I sort of agree with that. And there's lots of other sort of Kabbalistic and astrological authors out there that do the same thing and have them associated in all sorts of different ways. Here we go into our cups. I will definitely talk about those court cards a little bit more when we get to the next one. But the Shem angels, Keter is written up there again, and then your two angels, Two of Cups is the Lord of Love. Golden Dawn titles are so good. Anyway, how you arrive at the Shem angel names, they're basically become like these three Hebrew letters for each. It's like the 72 names of God. It's all talking about the same thing. The angels or the demons or whatever that Crowley does too with the Goetia. Is that how you say it? It's all sort of talking about the same thing. But it comes right out of the Bible, right out of Exodus. There's these three sequential verses. Exodus 14, I believe. It's like 19, 20, and 21 verses. Yep. And they all three verses have 72 letters in it. And you line them up, sort of this way, and then this way, and then this way, and you get these three letters from each row, and that's where the Shem Hamefresh get their name. But they have all these. You know what I did? I grabbed this. Hang on a second. They have all these sort of divinatory sounding associations. This is the Kabbalah. This is a Pappas book that is not really about tarot, but just the Kabbalah in general. But he talks about all the, is this them? Yeah, that looks like them. He talks about the 72 spirits corresponding to the 72 names of God, and it gives you the Hebrew letters, and then basically what's added on to the end of them is either like El or Aya. So that's how you get all your names. Yelael, Sitael, hope for all creatures against adversity. It gives against mental troubles and for the identification of traitors. Like, you could see how if you build these into your understanding of the minor arcana, they're going to give you a lot of information. It's really very fascinating stuff to look into. And it's strange because it is so closely interwoven with tarot, and I don't know why it's not a more popular subject. If you hop online and start checking out and look up that stuff, you'll find some cool information and some battle royales on Eclectic Tarot and other tarot forums about that kind of stuff. Love it. There's your Six of Cups. See what I mean? They look very Thoth inspired. I'm sure I do that sometimes. Sorry if I sort of just interchange Golden Dawn with Thoth. I do not really mean to do that. They are two different things. Crowley based his deck very heavily on Book T and all the Golden Dawn stuff too, but he also has tons of his own stuff infused into the tarot cards, all of his thelemic ideas, and you could say the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is a Golden Dawn deck to an extent too. There's definitely Book T influence, Mather's influence there. I feel like a lot of people say too that like Waite was trying to hide all the Golden Dawn secrets, and I don't know. I'm sure he was to an extent. He doesn't give you much information about his tarot deck, but I love his deck because it does take some of those ideas, but then he just infused all the rest of his alchemical knowledge, his hermetic, his Kabbalic, fucking everything into that deck, and it's so rich for it, I think. Okay, sorry. Here are our court cards. So, oh my god, where to start? This is where I had my revelation. So before I got this deck, I was associating I had the Thoth deck before this, and for me, basically, my knight in Thoth, my knight became my king, my queen was my queen, the prince became my knight, and the princess my page. Now, if that sounds perfectly accurate and 100% familiar to you, that's fine. That is definitely how I did it. I have since 100% changed my mind and my thinking, and that was really greatly due to this deck. So what I did when I got this deck was still at first used my old Thoth Rider-Waite-Smith correspondences. And in that case, what I had to do when I first started working with this deck, and if you still follow that, you might sort of have to do the same thing, is change your king to a knight and your knight to a king. Because look, this is your king, this is your prince. So really, he pulled this together really nicely for, excuse me. So really, he pulled this together really nicely for people who, I want to say, do it right, do it correctly, where the king really is the prince. You know what? I'm going to make a whole nother video, maybe right after this, really explaining this whole idea and why the correspondences make so much more sense this way. As opposed to the other way. Now, if you view your king as fire and not air, that's the reason why I had my correspondences the way that I had them anyway, more because I had different elemental associations in mind. This is sort of where a lot of the confusion comes from, because of the elemental correspondences that come along, of course, when you associate your quartz with the tetragrammaton. You have your Yod, He, Vav, He, earth, fire, water, air, and earth. I don't want to get off on too many tangents here, sorry. But, if this is our king here, or our prince of the Chariot of Waters, so beautiful, our king with... what is that, with air, but if you associate your king with fire, as a lot of people do, because they want their king and their queen to be fire and water, you could run into some confusion. I think what's interesting about Golden Dawn and the Thoth, the courts there, is that they're much more fluid. It's not necessarily, the knight is the consort of the queen. No, it's the prince sleeps with the queen and becomes the knight. And, it's not as rigid a system almost. Lord of the waves and waters, the Knight of Cups. Yeah, these are really cool too, because they are like exactly what is described, almost exactly what's described in Book T. Beautiful court cards. Love. Changed my life. I really am going to make that other video and go into a lot more detail about those court card correspondences. It's really fascinating. I had a total revelatory moment because of this deck. It made me take another look at my court card correspondences from Golden Dawn to everything else. It's really to Rider-Waite-Smith. Four of Swords. Here's your Five of Swords. They're beautiful. This deck is absolutely beautiful, and there's so much beautiful symbolism everywhere. Lord of Earned Success. And you have your Shem Angelic Correspondences, as what is written in Hebrew on every single card. And he does give you the names of the Shem angels in the little white book. They are listed there. I think it's interesting, you know, Pappas in, what is it, probably Terror of the Bohemians, I think. He talks about associating them with the 72 angels, you know, the minors to the decans and all that. And in that system, it becomes the ace through the 9, just like it is in Terror of the Holy Light. And while she doesn't actually have her Shem Angelic associations on the cards, they are in the book. I think I talked about it a little bit in my review of that deck. So much information in that deck too, it's hard to get to everything. I am leaving out, you know, a lot of Golden Dawn basic stuff from this review, but I really wanted to talk about those two things, kind of the court cards a little bit, and all the angelic correspondences, because people don't talk about that stuff too much, and I think it's absolutely, utterly fascinating. 3 of discs, or pentacles. They are pentacles in this deck, by the by. Wands, swords, pentacles, and cups. Lord of material trouble, 5 of pentacles. Ooh. 6 of pentacles. Here's your 7. And we get to the court cards. I'll show you one more time exactly how things line up and how really I feel like the tarot community is kind of split on how they associate things when you're flip-flopping in and out of these two sort of kind of different systems, different ways of looking at the court cards. All right, here we go. So this is our knight, which if you do things sort of the opposite way, this would end up being your king. You know, if you associate the Thoth knight with the king in a Rider-Waite-Smith, if you make that association, you're going to have to flip-flop this title. I think this is accurate and correct. The knight is the knight. He is on horseback. Ooh, I'm going to prove my argument actually in that other video. I really am. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. The queen remains the queen. She is still water of earth. And your king, you know, air of earth, who is the prince. That's right, the prince is the king. It really does make sense. I'm not going to break it all down now, but I swear I'm going to make another video. That'll be fun. Stir up some controversy. Here is your Princess of Pentacles, your Earth of Earth. Isn't that great? All the symbols that you need for your attributes and your correspondences are just blatantly all over these cards, which can be such a godsend. I just try to like block out some of them because I don't agree with all of them, but it's great for learning. And even though I still don't agree with a lot of the associations in this deck, I have a different way that I believe is correct for me personally, I can still use this deck because it's still a tarot card. I mean, it's still a tarot deck. And when you get right down to it, it reads beautifully. And it's an inspiring and gorgeous deck. Definitely one of my favorites for several reasons. All right, I hope I did this deck some sort of justice. It's a really special deck. And it does have really thick cardstock, actually. It's a little hard to riffle shuffle with it because it is a little bit on the thicker side. It's certainly nowhere near as thick as like Wild Unknown or something like that. But it is definitely... I feel like it's thicker. Yeah, it's stiffer than like a Centennial Rider-Waite-Smith anyway. And those are fairly sturdy cards. But like you saw, you can still riffle shuffle with it, and you can totally overhand shuffle. Never really come across a tarot deck that was that hard to shuffle with. Only if they're giant. Anyway, that is the Hermetic Tarot, folks. Stay tuned for court card video. We're gonna do that. That'll be fun. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.